Hello and welcome to Kettle and Bones, where we make really delicious, really healthy food. And you can too. I'm very excited about the dish we're making today. It's one of those things that, for many, it takes you back to childhood. It's like running into an old friend that you haven't seen since the 4th grade. Hey, look over there. Next to tater tot, corn dog, and octagon pizza. Is that? Oh my gosh, it's Sloppy Joe. Hey, Sloppy! How you been, man? You look great! Good times. One small thing, though. Today's dish is actually more like running into that old friend's distant cousin who you met once at a birthday party years ago. Seemed nice. Different. Very composed, very poised for someone that age. Actually, hard to believe that he and Sloppy are related at all. He just seemed to, have his life together in a way that Sloppy just never managed to do. Anyway, today, we're making Chaffley Joes. Let's get cooking. Sloppy Joe was a good dude. You could always count on him to bring lots of crumbled, slow-cooked ground beef, so that's where we're starting. In a cold pan, we have a quantum of beef. About 4 ounces or 115 grams per serving is a good general rule. Yes, you heard me right. This is a cold pan. We are not searing this over very high heat for a change. To this cold pan, we're going to add the beginnings of our seasonings. You may remember from making our tender turkey meatloaf, Series 1, Episode 3. This combination of carrot, celery, and onion is known as the mirepoix, which forms the wonderfully aromatic basis for so many different recipes in Western European cooking. Chaffley Joe took a year off after high school to backpack through Europe, said it was amazing. Sloppy had always talked about taking a trip like that, but just never made it happen. I have grated the carrot, thinly sliced the celery, and finely chopped the onion, because I don't want big crunchy bits of these veggies in the beef filling. That's not what the Joes are all about. These are here to add flavor, not texture. In addition to the traditional mirepoix, I'm also adding finely chopped green bell pepper. Fun fact, the Cajun variation of mirepoix uses bell peppers instead of carrots. You know, Chaffley went to New Orleans for Mardi Gras one year, and he wouldn't stop referring to it as Nolans when he got back. Super annoying. We're also going to add some finely chopped garlic to the mix because garlic. Okay, with our tiny veggie pieces and our beef in the pan, we can now turn on the heat to medium. As this warms up, I'm going to be constantly stirring and chopping, making sure that no beef is allowed to cook in a big chunk. The Joes are all about having a thick, flavorful meat filling with a uniform texture throughout. That's why we're not kicking this off with a ripping hot pan. It will probably take about 10 to 15 minutes for this to get up to heat and approach a simmer. As it does, keep chopping and mixing. Hang in there, you're going to get a break soon. Just a quick note while we're stirring and mixing, this is a dish where you can use a leaner ground beef if you want to, since we're not making patties that need fat to hold together or anything. On the other hand, if you use ground beef with a higher fat content, you may choose to spoon out or drain some of the grease at this point if that's your preference. If you're making this dish as part of a ketogenic diet, whether or not you need to drain the fat may depend on where you need this to be nutritionally in terms of the fat content. Just something to keep in mind. Any beef chunks larger than about the size of a marble that may have formed, you need to chop and or smush those up. Once you do, we can move on to the next step. We're going to start seasoning this for flavor. Let's begin with a splash of red wine vinegar. Apple cider vinegar would be a good alternate choice here too, if you have that. We're adding this for the flavor and also to help deglaze the bottom of the pan in case any fond has formed there. We want that joining our meat and veggies in the mix. A little splash of water will help that along as well. Next, just like Cousin Sloppy, Chaffley Joe has a predominantly tomato flavor. We're adding a nice big glob of tomato paste. Don't worry about the exact amount. We'll be tasting and adjusting as we go. We're also adding a dollop of Dijon mustard. Sloppy Joe uses plain yellow mustard. Chaffley did a semester abroad in France and came back really snobby and elitist about mustard. Just insufferable. Next, let's add several sprinkles of Worcestershire sauce for some nice, dark, smoky, salty goodness. Chaffley has also visited England and insists he can do a really great British accent. He can't. I'm also going to add a couple dashes of cayenne pepper and several twists of freshly ground black pepper. Next, several generous shakes of smoked paprika. And let's mix those in. Traditional sloppy joe meat is made with lots of ketchup and brown sugar. Obviously, in a low-carb, keto-friendly recipe, we're not going to do that. The tomato paste, the Worcestershire sauce, the paprika, those are going to help us approximate a smoky, sweet, tomatoey flavor profile without adding a literal mountain of sugar. The last ingredient we're going to add for now is about a cup of chicken stock. I'm using chicken stock rather than beef stock because it's a little lighter. There's not going to be a shortage of rich, beefy flavor in here, trust me. We're going to let that return to a low simmer. I'll tell you what, let's tuck a single bay leaf in there too. I love the subtle flavor that a bay leaf gives to pretty much any savory sauce that simmers for a while. And that's exactly what we're going to let this do. For about 45 minutes to an hour, we're going to let this simmer and reduce on low heat. I'm actually going to move this over to another burner so that we have some more space to work with here, because we have what makes it a joe. Now it's time to make it chaffly. Chaffles, chaffles, chaffles. Nope, still sounds weird. It means cheese waffles. We did a whole episode dedicated to chaffles and their many uses, Series 1, Episode 15. If you haven't seen it, definitely go check it out. But quickly, we're going to start by cracking 8 eggs into a mixing bowl and adding 1 whole 8-ounce package, that's about 225 grams, of softened cream cheese. I had this package sitting in a bowl of warm water to soften it up. And using a hand mixer, I'm going to blend that very thoroughly. I want this really smooth. When this is well mixed, let's add about 1/6 of a cup each of almond flour, coconut flour, and Lupin flour. The total volume of dry ingredients should be about 1/2 cup, give or take. Next, just a teaspoon of erythritol sweetener, or your preferred non-sugar sweetener, and about a teaspoon of baking powder. This is the basic foundation of the batter. Now, if we were making a sweet breakfast chaffle to go with berries and cream, for example, we would add flavors like cinnamon, nutmeg, and vanilla. Since these chaffles will be a conveyance for our savory, meaty filling, let's just go with onion powder and garlic powder. Give this another very thorough mixing. You should have no visible chunks of cream cheese left in there when you're done. In the original chaffles episode, we dumped all the ingredients, wet and dry, into the blender and mixed them together. That would work fine today too, whatever you do to get a really smooth batter. Next, we'll be adding some shredded cheese. Previously, we used Gouda, cheddar, pepper jack. You can get as fancy as you want. Today, I'm keeping it fairly simple with mozzarella and Parmigiano-Reggiano for a subtle, salty, nutty flavor. You know, Chaffley visited Italy once. He didn't stop saying ciao bella for like 2 months later. So lame. About 2/3 of this cheese mixture is going into the batter. I'm going to reserve the remaining 1/3. I'm going to show you a chaffle pro tip in just a minute. Now onto a preheated chaffle iron. That's just a waffle iron used to make chaffles. I'm brushing some melted butter to prevent sticking. Our batter is at the ready, but first we're going to sprinkle on some of that cheese we saved, right onto the hot chaffle iron. Then we add our batter and dust the very top with a little more cheese. And close this up to cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. This will vary depending on your chaffle iron, of course. You know how a deep dish pizza or lasagna or any really cheesy casserole gets that crispy crust of cheese around the edge of the baking dish? We're basically creating that on the top and bottom of each chaffle by putting the cheese in direct contact with the cooking surface. It's gonna be so good. When you take these out, I recommend a wire rack for cooling them. We took the extra step to make these extra crispy. We want to let the steam escape as they cool down so they stay crispy. We're going to repeat those steps twice more and end up with a total of 12 delicious chaffles. If you make the chaffles ahead of time, which I recommend you do, these are a great thing to make a huge batch of on meal prep day and keep them in the fridge for the week. You can reheat these easily in the toaster oven or conventional oven. They crisp back up really well. It's been about 1 hour since I put the meat filling to simmer on low heat. Let's bring that back over and see how it's looking. Very nice. This has thickened a lot. You want this to get to the point where a big heaping scoop of it will more or less stay on the spoon. If it will do that, it will make a great sandwich. Let's do a quick taste test. Really rich. Nice, subtle flavors from the mirepoix. And the spices. The paprika comes through really nicely. To live up to the school cafeteria Joes of my childhood, I think this needs just a little more tomato flavor. I'm gonna hit this with another glob of tomato paste. And just a dash of flavor-enhancing salt. And a little more fresh pepper. Let's mix and taste that again. Oh, that's perfect. My childhood is rushing back to me. There's Chaffley Joe, standing by the monkey bars, saying something pretentious. This is done. I'm going to set this to the side and cover it. We have one more thing to prepare to really make this special. Hot sandwiches in the Joe family are typically just meat filling in a bun. They can sometimes be a little mushy. We're going to add some body to this in the form of some additional vegetables. We're going to add some more green bell peppers, some red onion, and portobello mushrooms. You'll notice none of these are sliced thinly. I don't want these thin and soft. I want them al dente. Cooked on the outside, but firm and still even a little crisp on the inside. The bell peppers and onions are going in first on medium-high heat. Again, I want to see a little color and blistering on the outside of these. Once we have that, in go the mushrooms. I'm seasoning this very simply, just salt and pepper to bring out the natural flavors. These are looking done, so in goes a pat of butter. I'm going to kill the heat, and as soon as that butter is melted, these are ready. All the pieces are now in place. Let's assemble. Now, as we put this together, I hope it doesn't seem like I'm getting too meta talking about the assembly within the assembly, but trust me, the order of the specific ingredients actually does make a difference. On one of our warm, delicious, crispy, tasty chaffles, let's spoon on some of this fantastically aromatic meat filling. Just a bit to start with, not too much. One great thing about Chaffley Joe as compared to Sloppy Joe is that Chaffley does a much better job of holding the filling in, owing to the nice little square pockets of the chaffle. Next, on goes a layer of our al dente vegetables, peppers, onions, mushrooms. Again, these really help to make this more than simply a squishy hot meat sandwich. On that note, I don't know why I'm craving this specifically today, but pickles. Nice, thick dill pickle chips. Or if you wanted to add a little heat, do you know what else would be really amazing? Our easy pickled jalapenos. Series 1, Episode 1. So good. Next layer, cheese. I'm going with a thin slice of provolone. It's a fairly light cheese with a subtle flavor. It melts smoothly. It's delicious. And speaking of delicious melting cheese, on top of it all goes a heaping layer of meat filling. Oh, Chaffley, look at you. For all your worldliness and life experience, all the many years you've spent honing your perfectly polished persona, you may be cultured and well-traveled, but at the end of the day, you can't run from what you really are. You're still sloppy, just like all the Joes. Own it, embrace it, and we will love you for it. Wow, look at that. Oh, you're hitting your fat and protein macros today for sure. The meat is rich, hot, and tasty. The provolone is melty. The veggies are firm and flavorful. And the chaffle, light and fluffy inside, crispy and cheesy outside, holds it all together in a way that no soggy bun could ever do. Stay with Kettle and Bones for many, many more amazing low-carb and keto-friendly versions of your favorite nostalgia-inspiring foods. But for now, just enjoy your Chaffley Joes.